Just wanted to welcome you. Thank you for coming. I'm Lisa Melendy, the Director of Athletics here at Williams. And I've been doing this for a little over 10 years now. It's a little bit different for me today because I also was moving a child into stage D this afternoon, so running around. I have completed my exercise circle, running up and down the stairs, so that was a good start to the day. And if you're anything like me, you've had the song Sunrise Sunset on continuous loop for the past few weeks. Anybody been listening to that? Well, we just want to go over a few things about the program today, a little bit about what you could expect, and a little bit about what athletics is about here at Williams. A lot of different teams and programs. We have 32 varsity teams, about 750 athletes, as it says, some junior varsity teams, club sports, intramurals, sit-in campus, Office of Campus Life, and we also have a physical education requirement, a swim test requirement, which your first years have probably already packed their bathing suits for and are ready to do soon. We're really focused on a lot of different things here for our student athletes. In particular, we're focused on their personal growth. While we're trying to celebrate their success and enjoying all those championships that we do have the good fortune to win, we're really trying to develop our student athletes, and this should be a part of their liberal arts education. This is an extension of what they're doing in the classroom, just in another format. We know that students learn better when they're fit and they're healthy, helps with their intellectual vitality, and it also they learn in different ways and they learn different lessons about teamwork and growth together and hard work and perseverance. Whoops, I went too fast. So really define success in a lot of ways. Certainly their academic engagement, their community engagement, and the successful teaching of our coaches who are all faculty members, and really think of them again as teachers and mentors to your students, your children. We really are excited about sharing their passion with them, again, in the tradition of the liberal arts education, about finding places where students are passionate about their activities and coupling them with, and you'll hear from some of our coaches who are also really passionate about their subject matter, and sharing that and being excited about it and sharing these moments and making these connections, in another subject area in their chosen sport. Building team is really a big part of what we do here as coaches at Williams. For some athletes, it's really could be quite different. They may have played an individual sport where they've been doing some sort of tournament circuit and they've never been on an actual team, or they've done a lot of showcase, a lot of travel club, which is different. Again, many of them may have played high school sports, but it's different than it used to be when maybe some of you played sports, certainly than when I did. So our coach is really focusing a little bit less sometimes on that skill development and a little bit more on how do we build team, how do we have common goals, how do we have common purpose, how do we put in a team offense and a team defense, where it's not about showcasing your skills to be seen by a college coach. It's about building teams and, again, this educational experience that we hope that they're prepared for. We all want what's best for your children and our students, and so we're hoping that we can work together and hopefully we can provide some reassurance that your children will be well cared for. This is really a period of transition for your students, for your children, as well as, every year for our teams, right? We have new people come on and they're sorting out the new personalities, the new talents, the new perspectives that come to their team, which is really exciting. One of the things we really like about coaching is that it changes every year, the dynamic changes as new students come in, so we're always excited about that. But we're trying to think about how do we help, in particular, our first years navigate this time of transition, this change. What's the most helpful? I'm the mother of 3 children who last year played on 14 different teams between travel and high school, so I know a lot of the sacrifices that you've made, a lot of all the water bottles you've washed, all the uniforms you've washed, all the meals you've had on the road, all the travel you've done to get here, so I appreciate your accommodating their love of sport. I also had this epiphany, again, if you've been to this before, you've heard all these stories before, I apologize, or if you've watched the video, but you're going to hear them again. About 10 years ago or so, my daughter was playing on a travel soccer team, and I had, this moment, this epiphany where I understood suddenly. I'd been the women's soccer coach for 17 years at Williams College, and I was watching her play travel soccer. She was about 8 or 10 or something, and she's not on the field, and I'm watching the game. And I'm watching how in transition, how the offense is setting up, in transition, how the defense is setting up. Are people making the right runs? Are they covering players? What are they doing? What's happening on a corner kick? How's everybody setting up? And then my daughter came into the game. Suddenly, she was the only person on the field. And I'm watching her play, and I can totally evaluate what she's doing in this really small box, but not in the context of the rest of the team. And I don't know what anyone else is doing. And I suddenly realized, that's why occasionally parents don't understand the decisions coaches are making because they're literally watching a different game than the coach is watching. And they're not watching all the pieces, you're just seeing your own child, which is appropriate. But sometimes that explains the difference in the choices that coaches make. And that was, again, this moment for me that was pretty poignant. All of our students that got here today, that we have just moved in, are highly motivated, high-achieving students. And usually all areas have been areas of success for them. And sometimes sports in college is the first time that they have a sense of feeling, a sense of failure, which we would not call it that, but they might feel like that. They may not be the starting player. They may not be the captain of the team. They may not be the leading scorer. So again, how do we help them deal with that? How do we help them, again, through that transition? And part of it is we really redefine success. We don't think of success in terms of the minutes they play or, are they starting, but what are they learning? How are they growing together? What I referenced before, how are they learning to form a team and work together? How much are they learning from these fantastic coaches that we have, and are they open to that and trying new things and taking risks and being in a different position or understanding how to be a role player? Those are the kinds of things that we want them to learn how to do, and also to enjoy the great fun of being on a team. Because that's still, for most of our teams, a high goal is it's supposed to be fun, and you're with your friends and you enjoy that. So really trying to help them focus on the positives. I'm at Williams College, I'm playing on a team, and I enjoy it, and I get great coaching every day. We have found that if you can accept their role in the team, they can more easily accept their role in the team. And letting our coaches coach, probably some of you, how many of you coached your children as in high school or youth sports? Yeah, a lot of coaches in the room, but we're gonna ask you now to try to hand them off and let these coaches be the coaches. And know that they're making the decisions that they think are best for the team. And you get to just be a fan. You get to relax. You get to breathe and cheer and relax and just be positive. We're going to introduce our coaches, and they're going to say a little bit, and we'll have some time at the end for questions. Kevin App, men's basketball coach, Alice Lee, women's lacrosse, and Nate Hoey, women's track and field. And they're each going to just talk to you a little bit about how they approach their coaching and things that they think might be helpful to you as a parent as you help your child transition.
Absolutely. I have the privilege of going first, which means I get to steal everything that they might say, which is great. But first of all, just welcome and congratulations. I have a 2-year-old daughter. She's our first, so I know it happens fast. You probably felt that way a few years ago. And then you're here, so I can't even imagine the excitement and anxiousness for the next 4 years. What I can tell you, I've been around Williams and athletics here for 10 years. I was here as an assistant 10 years ago, left for a few years and been back as the head coach now, starting my 5th season back as the head coach, which is crazier than your kids starting school, trust me. But I think, if you don't know already, you're joining an unbelievable community of people, academics, alumni, and athletics. So as Ms. Melendy just said, really enjoy it. You and your sons and daughters are really surrounded by people that are going to be some of your lifelong relationships from here on out. And I mean you guys too. I was telling some of the parents on the men's basketball team, the 2003 team at Williams just came back for a fun weekend to get back together. They won the national championship 15 years ago, so they came back 3 weeks ago. It was 11 players, 3 coaches from that team, 14 little kids now, 9 wives, and 5 sets of parents. And the parents, and it was, I think the parents were more excited to be back, because they miss seeing everybody. Because you guys only get to see it on the weekend. They really missed it. And it kind of, was a great experience for me to see as the head coach, because that is what it's about. That weekend they didn't talk, they were there because they won, but they didn't talk about anything. No one remembered, who was the leading scorer, who was playing. It was just, they came back for the people, and they went to the dinner at the same place they used to eat at. It was all about, again, the people there. So enjoy that. You're going to meet some great people and really have some great experiences and great relationships. My colleague last year said it best, and luckily he's not on the up here this year. But I think the main thing I would love to get across is that our goals are the exact same goals you have. But instead of having 1 or 2 daughters on the team, we have 16 sons and daughters on the team, or or 80, or, depending upon the sport. And so those are the individuals we're trying to develop individually and grow that team aspect. But just, again, I think it's always good to know that we're trying to accomplish the same thing you guys want, and that's your sons and daughters to really grow into unbelievable people ready to take on the world when they leave here. And we get to do it in a fun, unique environment through athletics. So one way, just specifically to our basketball program, we try to do that. I don't set any team rules. We have one guiding principle that I give the guys to really kind of hammer home, what I think being adults all about. And it's just the notion that, they make the choices, they don't decide the consequence. And really getting them to understand, and I'm not talking missing practice, yes, that comes into play every now and then, or being late. But the little things more importantly, what time you're going to bed, what are you putting into your body, the social, academic, personal decisions you're making, and how that influences, you might have been able to get away with certain things up until now, but now that you're surrounded by, some high-achieving teammates and people around you, do you have to refocus and reevaluate the choices you make and the time you put into things? So really just getting them to absorb that and, think of big picture things and small picture things. And it really, I think, takes some guys short period, but they know that if they ever come to me with something about they're not excited about, playing time or a result-based thing or a grade, my first question is going to go to the front end. All right, well, what are you doing? What did you do last week? What's your daily planner look like? Have you opened it yet? When you opened it, did you write something in it? All that stuff. And it takes some maturity on their end. And from the parent side of things, I can guarantee you your sons and daughters are going to call you. They are going to be highly excited about certain things, and they may or may not complain about something in the next 4 years. They might complain about the food or a friend or somebody in their dorm. They may complain about the coaches. I don't know why, but they might. But it's usually when you break it down, they're complaining about that second part of our team rule, right? The consequence or the result. They're not really kind of calling you and complaining about the front end. So I guess that would be my advice or encouragement is to ask about the front end. I had a bunch of funny ones written down that I've probably heard over the last couple of years. But again, what I had written down, I love my friends, teammates. I scored 15 points. We won. They're going to hear all that stuff. I think where you'll get a full appreciation of what they're doing is, ask them, what are you guys doing in your team meetings? What are you talking about? What's your, goals this year as a group? To kind of, get them away from those results and really see the actual work we feel we do as teachers and coaches here. On the other end, you might hear, that stinks, I'm not playing, school's hard, my coach, trainer, teacher, professor isn't great, I didn't get any sleep. And again, as I've delved in over the last 4 years, what they don't start with usually is, I've really been managing my time poorly, Mom. I've had, which has made me have bad body language and low energy at practice. Or, I was top 3 in Fortnite 18 times last week, Mom and Dad. But I had to write my paper in one day. Usually not what they're starting with, right? Or again, the social scene's awesome here. Especially Thursday nights. But it's not a big deal. I missed my Friday lift all off season. Again, they don't start with that. But sometimes there's usually, again, choices on the front end. So I think that's my advice and encouragement is to dive into those. Hopefully more on the positive end. Hey, why are you having success? You're surrounded by terrific people, and you're still having some success. Why is that? And get them to fully absorb it now, which I think is huge. On the other end, if they're not having, maybe they can, develop better daily habits or decisions. And then honestly, the hardest position I think for a parent, and I think where our athletes grow the most, is where they are making good decisions, where they are putting a lot of time into something and still for the first time maybe in their life not finding the playing time, the good grade, and that's hard, and that's probably the position they could be in for the first time ever. And that's the hard part that is on the parent side is, I think worth thinking about what you will ask and say in that situation. The other two, I think are worth thinking about and easy, but that one's really challenging and really hard. So I just, again, that's one way we do it in the basketball program, is get them to think about, do your choices reflect what you want the outcome to be? And, unfortunately, you don't always have control and power over what that outcome is. Injuries, all that stuff, all right? And lastly, I think if, some of the slides were up there, if you haven't, there are unbelievable resources here. So anytime they complain that they're not getting something, it's here for them to have. Whether it's, a nutritionist, whether it's a, sports psychologist, there's, tremendous resources here, that have to be, kind of scheduled into their schedule, and they have to pursue it. It's not just when they, say they want it. They have to really kind of go out there and ask for help at times. So encourage them to do so and use the resources. It's unbelievable the amount of, positions and resources Williams has really put into, the physical and emotional well-being of all the students here. So that's the other thing. And then lastly, like I started, just remember all of us as coaches here have the exact same goal. We want to watch them develop and thrive. There's often times where maybe choices we make to help foster that, wouldn't be what you would make. But, I think trust us, and we want the same result, the same end goal. We'll every choice we make, I can tell you, is with that consequence of their growth and development and maturity in the back of our mind. So, again, it's an absolute pleasure to coach your sons and daughters, to meet them throughout the 4 years, to watch them grow, whether they're on my team or not. I get to meet them in PE classes, or just, whether they work at our games or our guys work at their games. So it's a lot of fun in this community. Enjoy it. It's a beautiful place. There's great people. And believe it or not, they're probably going to be your friends just as they are your sons and daughters. So thank you, and again, congrats.
Testing, okay. So I do have a couple of notes on my phone, just in case I need them. So this is my first year being on this panel. It's actually my second year at Williams College. And so, as I'm learning more about Williams and about what makes this place so incredibly special, it's not, the bajillion Directors' Cups that we've won. I don't even know the exact number. Dick Quinn, our sports information director, can tell you in the back. But as Kevin had mentioned, it's really about, the philosophy within the department, which is that focus on growth and that focus on making the athletes their best selves, right? And just preparing them for life outside of Williams College. And so something that I talk about within my program is braving your fear. So what does that mean? What does that look like? And that's intentionally putting yourself outside of your comfort zone in order to stretch those boundaries and find that confidence. And what does that look like? It could look like saying yes to being on this panel when you have a slight fear of public speaking, though you're a coach. And so, in a game, it's having the courage to take that game-winning shot without knowing whether or not it's going in. It's having the courage to speak up and raise your hand in a classroom, whether or not you know the right answer. And for me, because I coach young women, developing that confidence is so important to me, where especially for some of our women who will graduate from here and go into a predominantly male industry, it's them having the confidence to assert their opinions and not worry, is this right, is this wrong? So really building the courage to do so. And so, it's fun because we all think of ourselves as teachers outside of the classroom. And for those of you who know women's lacrosse, you'll know that we recently got a possession clock last year. And for those of you who don't, we recently got a possession clock. And so, last year there were moments when, as the referee blows the whistle, the possession clock is still ticking down, and it's our ball. And so the referees call a timeout, and they're trying to figure out how much time to put back on the clock. And so as they're talking, I'll just assert, referee, there were 33 seconds left on that clock. And our players are like, Alice, I think there were only 10. There were 33 seconds left on that clock. And so inevitably, they'll come back to us and they'll say, okay, we're going to add 24 seconds. There are 24 seconds left on that clock. So I'll look over to our players and say, ladies, always go high in negotiations. Always go high. So again, it's these lessons that hopefully they'll carry with them as they graduate from here. So now you know the secret. But as Kevin had mentioned, really enjoy the ride, enjoy the process, and know that the sons and daughters that you moved in today, along with the EVE movers, they will not be the same when they walk through those gates, when they graduate from here. And they will have evolved and they will have grown because of the failures and successes they have faced. And so really enjoy the ride and be a witness to that growth. And that's what makes this place so special because of athletic director Lisa Melendy, these coaches before me. So welcome to the family, and we look forward to seeing you for years to come.
Welcome. We're glad you're all here. There's definitely a lot of common threads between all of the programs, and I have to smile when you're saying enjoy the ride. One of the things that we talk about all the time is sport is very much like a day going to the amusement park. You know, like you're driving, you get really excited, and then maybe you're fired up to get in line for something, but you're a little bit scared. This is a big roller coaster, and then as it gets closer, the fear increases even more, and maybe you just, I gotta go to the restroom, or something happens, but once you lean in and you face it, it's incredibly fun. And it's just an up and down. You know, sport is not a nice, clean, linear path. There's ups, there's downs, there's all over the places. And I believe that's why all of us, you know, within our program, and I know all the programs, we are very process, journey, relationship driven with everything that we do. Within our program, like we want all the individuals and collectively as a team to set really high goals and aspirations. We want to pursue excellence and striving for those aspirations. But we will not be defined by a result. You know, whether somebody hits a certain time or they throw a certain distance, we don't want that to define them. Essentially, I never want their happiness to be on the other side of a result. The reason being, with our sport and track and field, let's just take the 400 hurdles, for example. If somebody's trying to break 60 seconds, as soon as they break 60 seconds in the 400 hurdles, they run 59 something, they're like, yes, that was great. And then the next day, I want to run 58. Right? Like they will always push that goalpost standard a little bit farther down. And so that's why we never want their happiness to be on the other side of a result. Because if that's the case, they'll actually never get there. And so that's why we want to be very process driven and focusing on where you are. We say all the time, be where your feet are. You know, if it's at practice, being present and giving your best self to that session. If you're working on your biochem lab report, be focused on that and doing the best you can. And the way we do that is by focusing on attitude, effort, execution, being a great teammate, and letting go of the fear of failure. Always having, you know, a positive team-first attitude. Having a positive attitude does not mean that there'll be an absence of challenges or speed bumps that they're going to hit. There will be challenges, but when you know you've got a tremendous support network around you, they're going to help you kind of pan back and not just focus on that small challenge, but looking at the bigger picture and helping point you to the amazing resources that are here. When we talk about effort, it's doing the very best you can with what you can control and not worrying about things that are outside of your control. When we talk about execution, it's being intentional. You know, being intentional about their training, being intentional about their schoolwork, turning phones off, putting them away, having a productive, uninterrupted work session. Being intentional about self-care, you know, making sure you take care of yourselves. And that's really important. When we talk about being a great teammate, that means we want them to lift up their teammates with positive words and actions, make them the very best they can be, because then they in turn are going to mirror that back to you. And really helping each other. This is truly a special place that's incredibly supportive and everybody helping each other along in their individual journeys. And foundational for us, and what you hear a lot of, is letting go of the fear of failure. You know, and again, I go back to, we never want them to be defined by a result. If they go into that race and they say, oh, I gotta break 60 seconds, I gotta break 60 seconds. As soon as I break 60 seconds, my teammates are gonna like me more, my coaches are gonna give me more attention, whatever that is, that's an incredibly inhibiting mindset that's really going to prevent them from being able to go out there and replicate what they've been doing in their training, execute their race model or their technical model. But when we can show through our consistent presence, regardless of that result, or they know all of their teammates and coaches are there for them, regardless of what that result is, that's a really freeing feeling to actually let them go out there, replicate what they've been doing in their training, execute that plan. Doesn't guarantee they're going to hit that result, but it's going to be in a much better position to do so. And so that's really why we are process and journey driven and relationship driven in everything that we do. I think they had said it earlier as well. Every year, it never fails, at the end of year banquet, underclassmen are talking about the graduating seniors. They're never like, oh, so-and-so, when you ran this time or you did this. It's always, so-and-so, when you did this, you made me feel. You know, it's some unique experience that really was impactful to them and helped them through a speed bump or a challenge. And so how can you help with this, parents? Like my fellow coaches were saying, when they hit speed bumps, and this is for everybody that's here, all the students that are here, every single person will hit speed bumps throughout this year. Myself, all of us including. We don't know what they'll look like, what context they'll be in, but everybody will have challenges, and that's okay. And there are amazing resources here to help you when you face those challenges. So I would ask parents, when they call you with a challenge, just encourage them to continue to be consistent with what they're doing, encourage them to continue to be intentional with what they're doing, and pointing them, either if it's to us or we can help point them to the amazing resources that are here on campus to help them, you know, through that journey. I think that's one of the biggest things, is people often are fearful, kind of what you're saying, to ask for help, thinking that that might be failure, and that is not the case at all. Every single person will have challenges. We never know what they'll be like or what form they'll show, but they're there and will help you through those challenges. I think that's an important thing. And to the students that are here as well, welcome. We're super excited for you to be here. It's going to be an awesome year, and look forward to working with and seeing everybody throughout the course of the year.
Thanks, coaches. Appreciate that. In closing, just a couple little reminders and some short pieces of business. Just as I reference you as parts of our family, just as you can't always choose your in-laws, you know, you're all now part of the Williams family. You don your Williams gear, you go to visiting venues, you come here that you represent us, you're wearing stuff and ask you to be good guests and good hosts, that we're cheering positively and supporting our teams, and, you know, not being negative about officials, or because they're always good, and you know, or other teams. We're also trying to, just a couple business things, like I said, we're trying to really decouple the national identity or connection of alcohol and athletics. It's a hard thing to do, but we really ask your help in that, in not providing alcohol to our students at events, or if you host something or at tailgates, that's not a part of that team activity at all. I also want to reassure you on a few fronts. We've worked really hard over the past few years, as they were referencing, a lot of resources that we try to provide and take care of our students, to make sure that nutritional needs are met of your students. So that's really on us. Equipment needs, we have some additional funding for students who are on financial aid. If there are pieces of equipment that aren't funded, there is a fund to help support students in those pieces of equipment. Occasionally it's a pair of shoes for a team or something like that. So just so you know that. You're going to be getting an email about insurance. There is additional insurance coverage for athletes who are injured during the season, in practice or in competitions. Don't ignore that. Please return that. Hopefully we never need it. But if we do, it's important to have. Occasionally you might get an email from a parent about a team tailgate, or students want to buy stuff together. All of that is optional. You should not feel the need to participate or send money to do things, or to bring something to a tailgate. We just, if you can come, great. Don't worry about it. Again, like I said, the feeding our athletes, providing their equipment, that's on us. You shouldn't feel that you have an additional burden that you need to continue to do that. As I said, we'll have a normal year with ups and downs that we always do, but again, it's always the ride that is the adventure and the fun part, and what we are really always excited about. Again, like I said earlier, the good part for you is now you get to just sit back and cheer and enjoy it. And I'm going to leave you with some lines from Sunrise Sunset, because I've been listening to it, like I said. We're saying to them, because I thought it was apropos, what words of wisdom can I give them? How can I help to ease their way? Now they must learn from one another day by day. All right, so they're in this thing now together, in our experiment of living together and growing together and transitioning away from us and to each other and to their coaches and professors. So thank you, and again, download this on your way home. If you haven't been listening to it, you can just cry all the way home. If you guys have any questions for us before you go, I know you're trying to get to see your students, but if there are questions, yeah, go ahead.
Just a little more about the program and also
PE program and what? So we have a physical education requirement. It has a lot of different activities. Your students are going to get registration online for what courses are available. It's mostly around lifetime sports as most we can, a little bit of team sport, hopefully lessons that they can learn and be active while they're here. The outing club is also a part of our physical education programming, as is the dance department. So there are a lot of different ways to satisfy that. But again, the opportunity to learn something new like golf, squash perhaps they haven't seen before. So there are a lot of different opportunities. And they just sign up those through the line, and those happen over winter study as well.
If you had like a science lab in the afternoon that conflicts with practice time, where is the flexibility? Is that on the side of the coach or is it on the side of the professor?
It is most definitely on the side of the coach. So Williams has what they call a schedule of the day. So 8 to 4 for academic classes, 4 to 6 is supposed to be blocked out for athletics. We usually start more like 4:30 to 6:30, I have to say. One or two labs go till 5, and we just need to work around those. But generally, we're just waiting for students to get down to practice. A lot of labs go till 4, which is why we usually start more like 4:15 or 4:30 to let students get there. But if there's ever an academic athletic conflict, there is no conflict. They do their academic activity.
About the nutritionist, how do you get them involved with the nutritionist if they want to do that?
Yes, so there are a couple of ways. There's a nutritionist through dining services. We also have someone on our staff, Carolyn Miles, whose job is around student-athlete well-being, and she can also always point them to those resources. And she speaks with each team so that they'll sort of be aware of that also.
Does the NISCAC have any kind of TV rights with like NSN or NESN?
So,
I'm curious if there's any way we could, if we can't go to the game.
yes, I should have said that. Thank you. That used to be in one of my remarks. So yeah, we webcast almost all of our games on NSN, and you can just find their website. You pull down the Williams bar. Dick's going to correct me if I'm wrong. Find the game. It almost always works. But yeah, almost every game we webcast from, and every event.
What happens on Friday afternoons if they have, if they're like traveling up to Maine, there's a couple schools in Maine? I mean, do they, if they have a Friday class, how does that work?
Yeah, so I should have said there are no conflicts. Travel is a conflict, so I lied already. It's one of those I've already hit a bump. So they,
I held that in my pocket for you.
exactly. Yeah, so, if they need to miss a class for traveling, which is the only reason they'd miss, they're going to talk to their professor about that, and we're going to have opening day with all of our student athletes over the next week, and we'll sort of talk to them about how they should talk to their professors about missing class. They should never email their professor like 1 in the morning to say, hey, won't be there tomorrow. They should talk to them in person. They get the schedule right away. They need to look through what are my conflicts. They should talk to their professor up front. Even potential conflicts that might be down postseason create some problems for us because we have less control over that. We try very hard to manage our own scheduling to minimize missed class time. And very rarely, but occasionally, a professor will say, you can't miss. When we can, we will send a second vehicle. Literally, the only exceptions usually are to Maine because we don't want a student driving themselves to Maine. But sometimes for closer events, again, we might send a second van, or a student might, either they or someone on the team might have a car. We try to, again, minimize that. But those are some conflicts that arise. And again, every once in a while, a student doesn't go to the athletic event. Not very often, but it does happen.
When does the winter season start?
November 1st is the first day of practice. In about 8 days, 10 days? How many days after that, you guys? 15 or 16 days after that. Some scrimmages and then some games about 2 weeks in. Well, thank you. I really appreciate your taking the time to listen. We hope to see you at some other events.